Hello everybody, Brad Johnson here. In this video we're going to be talking about the healing path and primordial knowledge. So in this video my intention is to get more of a deeper scope as it relates to one's healing path. Very commonly what we discover is when we're going into a healing arrangement and we're looking to heal the physical body. We may have an ache or pain within the organs. We may have some sort of chronic illness. We may have back problems, neck aches, headaches, etc. And we often get the impression that as soon as we begin to go into these situations of healing, that we heal the physical body, and after we heal the physical body, then we're all good. There is nothing else to concern about. It's finished. But really we have to understand that we're healing a reality body. That it really comes down to physical, mental, emotional, spiritual body. That is all interconnected together with each other. When you start to work with an area of your body, again, that may have been in certain forms of emotional atrophy, and we start to replenish that energy, probably again doing a lot of meditation, doing a lot of yoga, doing a lot of internal martial arts or internal energy practices. Yes, we start to feel some relief coming into the physical body. But what we're going to notice next is these emotional situations that are going to bond themselves together with our reality body. So we'll notice that as we're working on, let's say, the digestive system, and we're starting to do some good work in the physical body, then all of a sudden we notice that there is a situation as it pertains to relationships that come up just around the time to where the digestive system was being worked on. And now we're noticing this emotional entanglement that's taking place. Now we may notice that there is a conflict with our own belief systems as it relates to the mental body. Now we're questioning our ability of spiritual discipline as it relates to the spiritual body, right? So it all interconnects together with one another. And this is the hologram, this is the matrix as it represents the universe, is that everything is all interconnected as it relates to these appropriate bodies. So this is something that's very, very common. And people start to realize, well, I'm feeling really good physically, but all of a sudden all of this crap just hits me. I get all these situations happening to me just because I was working on my physical body, and now all these situations are manifesting within my reality, and they feel very, very intense. What the heck is going on here? Well, it's because we have left this amount of healing to stagnate within our body for a very long time. And the physical body just represents the interface of where we are going through these intense, heavy challenges. Then as we start to heal that physical body, all of this emotion, all of this mentality, all of this spiritual aspect of ourselves is now reflecting in this interfacial reality body. And so now we're noticing relationships are shaking up, financial situations are shaking up, problems with career are shaking up, all because we're working on ourselves. Well, that's primarily how it works. When something has been in stagnancy for a certain amount of time, its intensity is going to magnify exponentially. And our goal here is to become even more strong-willed, to become even more determined, to becoming more vigilant as it relates to these situations that are manifesting based upon what we are attempting to heal within ourselves. It's not just the idea of something chronic or something that has been aching or painful for quite some time within the physical body. You have to understand that if you're only looking at this on a physical level, you're missing 90 to 95% of the actual situation that's taking place. This, again, just a storage device, just an interface that is encapsulating all of this energy relating to the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies. And so it is the pathway to healing that we are now starting to realize we need to heal the emotional self. We need to heal the mental self. We need to heal the spiritual self, not just the physical self. So situations will come together, maybe for people that you haven't talked to in months or even years that are now coming back into your life and telling you, hey, you still have this thing to look after. You need to get it done or else, right? It feels like the situation that has just been sleeping for quite some time has now awoken, and it's very fiery, right? This has happened to me, specifically within certain financial matters, and even in past relationships as well too. Basically, when we're going through this immense purging, this enormous shift of healing taking place, many of us are now starting to realize what's happening within our physical bodies as it now becomes worked on and translates into the emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies portrayed through the reality body that is all around us. So basically, when you're going into this state of healing, it's important that you are being mindful that you're not just healing the physical body, that you're not just healing your digestive system, that you're not just healing your back, that you're not just healing your neck, that you're not just healing headaches. You are healing a prolonged state of stagnancy that has been neglected for quite some time. And when you start to heal this, it is very important that you remain steadfast. It is very recommended that you remain strong-willed, that you remain determined, because there are going to be situations that are going to manifest in your reality in kind to what it is that you're attempting to heal within the physical body. And again, that has been neglected for quite some time through these other bodies. So yes, you do need to be steadfast. Yes, you need to be strong-willed. Yes, you need to have that braveness coming together with you, because you're going to interact with some very intense events. And that's primarily how we're healing the entirety of our being. So when we do work with, again, the example of the digestive system, we know these situations with relationships come together, we're facing them. If we go back and we bury ourselves again, then this situation with our digestive system, for example, is going to become even more intense, is going to become even more stronger, because we have let it stagnate for such a long time. And now everything's coming to the surface. And this is what's happening to us collectively, is that there is a healing wave upon this planet. Veils are dropping. Veils of confusion are now starting to fizzle out. And now we're starting to get a great deal of clarity as we're starting to work upon our physical selves, mental selves, emotional selves, and spiritual selves. And the only way that we're ever going to be able to heal this entirely is, again, with that strong will, that determinism, that ability to love even deeper, to forgive, to bring compassion on an even deeper level than we ever have before. And so this is the healing path. It requires a brave soul, requires someone who is very, very determined to being able to work with these situations and remedy them this time around. That way we don't have to repeat them again and have them become much more intense the next cycle around. And that's primarily what happens when we leave things that are buried for a long time. That stagnancy grows, right? It's almost kind of like putting a loaf of bread on the counter and watching it just deteriorate, watching the mold coming together, right? Well, that's exactly what's happening with us. The emotion gets so heavy, we swallow it down, we bury it, and now our bodies become atrophied, right? They become atrophied. They become this aspect of degradation because this emotion is so intense. It's so heavy. It's what impairs us all. And that's it. Whenever we're looking at a state of impairment, we're looking at some heavy trauma. We're looking at some heavy karma. We're looking at some heavy emotional situations. So remember that you are working with all of those bodies and not one in particular. The next discussion is going to relate to that of primordial knowledge. And this is something that may be quite shocking to some people, but this is something that I have discovered not too long ago as well, is that all forms of primordial knowledge, which just basically represents its raw form, the aspect of raw knowledge, does not come from light. It comes from darkness. It comes from shadow. When we're working with primordial knowledge, we're looking at raw concepts. We're looking at something that has been untested, something that has been undisciplined, and something that has not been applied into our reality. And as soon as we are able to look at this knowledge and realize its raw form, it is up to us to bring that energy into application, to being able to test it, to being able to feel disciplined by that particular knowledge and transform it into wisdom. When it becomes transformed into wisdom, that knowledge therefore becomes light. Everything within this planet that has just been newly discovered and is now being applied, perhaps for governmental means, perhaps for weaponization, etc., remains as dark knowledge. It remains as that primordial knowledge because there has not been a level of maturity that has allowed that form of knowledge to become refined, to become purified. It's the ability to know that we have this particular knowledge, but we know not to use it in any way that would cause harm, that would cause abuse, that would cause any particular type of conflict with ourselves or with others. When we have that particular type of understanding, that old raw knowledge, primordial knowledge that is existing within darkness is now becoming the light. It is now being purified into the aspect to which we know as wisdom. So this is where the aspect of knowledge is not always the degree to where it is always positive, right? We have positive and negative attributes as it relates to raw knowledge. Raw knowledge exists within the void. When we're basically looking at a collective unconscious, or even a collective consciousness in that sense, we can actually see a lot of shadow that exists around it. Just because it's knowledge does not mean that it's enlightened knowledge. It is the aspect that knowledge itself remains raw. For example, we could have the knowledge of building a super weapon, a death ray, in that way, that could wipe out entire civilizations, right? Now that really does not represent something that could be too enlightening, but it's the realization of knowing that we have the ability to build such a thing, but we would never be able to use it. And that result of the effect of realizing not to play with an invention like that could again do inconsiderable harm to others would ever be constructed. That therefore becomes the effect of the wisdom that is therefore gained based upon that primordial knowledge. So this is basically going back into shadow law and to light law. That in shadow law, shadow tells you everything. It's primordial knowledge. It's all of these aspects of ourselves. It's all of these remnants. It's all of these catalyst reflections that are telling us, hey, I can tell you exactly how to build this technology. Hey, I can tell you exactly why I'm so emotional. Hey, I can tell you why these emotions exist, etc. They're all just different smorgasbords, as it were, relating to knowledge that we are now just starting to understand, and now we have to determine its application. Whether we know that we can refine this knowledge into the purity of wisdom, therefore bring it into light law, right? So when you're moving into light law, you're not learning anything. You're not being taught anything. You are the result of refinement. You are the result of purification. This is why when we come onto this planet, we become shadow workers first. We look into the aspect of shadows. We start to realize the knowledge that is being accumulated into ourselves. And it is when we are able to apply and bring discipline to that knowledge that we therefore refine it and bring it into purity of light, right? That's how you become a light worker. Your light workerness comes from the aspect of purification. It comes from the idea of you becoming the result, the solution, the aspect of that refinement that has been based upon primordial knowledge that is now becoming wisdom, right? Becoming a light worker is becoming a worker of wisdom, which means that you have applied personally many of these particular shadow concepts through primordial knowledge to allow yourself to become refined and purified as a wisdom worker, which is the nature of a light worker. So you have gone through a lot of these shadow concepts. You have realized that when a person starts taking advantage and starts playing with these primordial forms of knowledge, abusing it in the way where they're harming themselves and harming others, that is not the aspect to what a light worker represents. A light worker therefore represents that keeper of wisdom. They have been able to gain experience from themselves about what has been applied for wisdom. And they are therefore utilizing that particular knowledge from what they have accumulated through the wisdom of the light that is now being portrayed and shared with that particular person or persons that are still moving into shadow. Not because that person that is in the light worker realm, so to speak, needs to do this, but because we've experienced it ourselves and we're seeing others who are experiencing it now, therefore we pass the wisdom on. We basically say, Well, you're struggling with this situation, you're struggling with this emotion, and this emotion is now becoming quite knowledgeable to them. They're starting to realize exactly what happens. We're not telling them step by step what to do through the aspect of knowledge. We're educating them in regards to the effect of what we have gone through as it pertains to the perspective of wisdom that has now aligned this light into purification to which we are now becoming, right? So basically, to put this in a simple way, is that when you become a light worker, you're not concerned about knowledge. Knowledge doesn't mean anything anymore. When you're becoming a light worker, you are aligned to wisdom, and you are sharing wisdom as a means to communicating with those aspects of yourself based upon what you have already been able to purify through yourself, so that they can therefore see that light. That light becomes a reminder of how they can now purify what they have been working with through primordial knowledge to therefore transform themselves into wisdom. So light becomes an example. It does not become a teaching. It is basically us shining our lights as a reminder, as an example of what we have become, what we have been able to refine through primordial knowledge. And when they understand that, now they move past primordial knowledge and they purify that, they refine that into light as well. That therefore transcends one shadow worker into a light worker. So that's the nature as it pertains to primordial knowledge. Knowledge is infinite, it's abundance. We are able to go into the void and pull all of this detail out. But the true key to a liberated being comes from being able to take that knowledge, apply it in their own way uniquely to make themselves into light, harmonizing and purifying that knowledge into wisdom. Thank you everybody for tuning in to New Earth Teachings YouTube channel. Please feel free to visit our website, newearthteachings.com, private sessions, digital courses, blog, free media, and a lot more. Again, newearthteachings.com. Thank you so much, and I look forward to speaking to you again in the next video. Take care.